Hey, you mind grabbing me that SQL book?
Sure. Let's see, where is it? SQL, there we go. There you go.
That's not how stacks work. Hey everyone, welcome. As you can see, I've been working on my tan. How's it look? No, I'm just playing. I just haven't fixed the settings yet. Let's try to get these looking a little bit more normal. There we go. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about the stack data structure. And yeah, I just looked because I couldn't remember. So I have my notes over there. So we're going to be talking about stacks. So these are often taught with another data structure known as queues. They're very similar, but it helps to understand stacks first, and then picking up the queue is actually a piece of cake. And no, I don't mean a literal piece of cake. I just mean it's going to be easier to learn the queue after you learn the stack. So the way a stack works is first we're going to approach it more like a conceptual way, and then we're going to look at some of the operations of a stack. So in the example of, let's say, books, if you have a stack of books, and I literally just mean a stack of books, nothing technical or fancy here. Well, if you wanted to add a book to this stack, the most logical place to put it is on the top. And that is how a stack data structure works as well. We're going to represent data in such a way that we put stuff on top, like so. And then when we need to get data back out, we actually take it off of the top. So this one's going to come off of the top, and we will have it over here, and then it will no longer be on our stack. So conceptually, that is how a stack data structure works, just like a normal stack of anything in real life. Now, if we wanted to describe the capabilities of a stack data structure, we could break it down to two key, essential, very important operations. How to have as many adjectives as possible there. So these operations are pop and push. And these are functions, or actually usually these are going to be methods on an object in our code. So you might have something like data.pop and data.push, where data is some collection, some variable. Now, what is the data type of this data variable? Well, it's going to be some collection. And by collection, I mean it's probably going to be a dynamic array or a linked list. So those are the two common ways of doing it. You can do it with a dynamic array. Heck, you could even do it with a static array too. It's just going to be a little bit different. But most of the time it's going to be a dynamic array or a linked list. And heck, this is interesting because there's actually different ways of creating a stack. And because of that, because there's different ways of doing it, the stack is known as an abstract data type. So you know, when you study abstract art, it's just people splash paint up on something, and they say something like, hey, you can interpret it however you will, you can bring it into existence. And I'm not an artist, okay? But similar thing here, where we define behaviors a little bit more abstractly by just saying, hey, it has to have a pop method and it has to have a push method. The actual implementation can vary. It could be a dynamic array, it could be a linked list. It's up to you guys to decide how you want to actually create a stack data structure. So the stack is less about a physical thing and more about a set of behaviors. The ability to push something on the stack and the ability to pop something off of the stack. Crazy. So let's start from the beginning and build this stack right here. I'm going to erase it and we're going to go from scratch. So the very first thing is we put our very first element, and to do this we invoke the push method. So here's going to be the actual method calls. So we'll say data.push, and instead of using the concept of books, let's just go with some other type of data like integers. Let's say we push the number 5. Well, we're going to see how you could visualize this over here. So we're going to have the value 5 at the bottom of a stack. Then inside of our array, it's going to look like so. 1 element, 5. Now, let's say we want to put another piece of data on top of this stack. The way we would do that is we would say data.push, and this time let's pass in 10. So 10 visually is going to be on top of this 5 and is going to be represented in the array just with another element. So the length of the array is now 2. Now let's add one more element in here. So we'll say data.push, and let's pass in -7 just to switch it up. All right, so this is going to go up here, and we're going to have another element in our array like so. All right, let's do one more element, and then we'll talk about pop. So let's say data.push, and what number you guys want to put? You want to do +7? All right, yeah, I like that. All right, so that's going to go there, and that's going to go right there in our array. So now let's talk about the pop operation. So the pop operation modifies the stack. It changes the data of the stack. What it does is it will remove this element here, it'll remove it here, and return it. So what that means is we can assign it to a variable. So the call to this would look like so. We would create some variable, and then we would invoke data.pop. We don't pass anything in. It's always going to grab that top element, and now this variable element contains the value 7. So that is how a stack works. So if we wanted to get this element here, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to say data.pop. Again, data.pop. So the first one will get rid of that number, the next one will get rid of that number, and then we do it one more time, and we can assign this one to a variable. Let me think of some creative variable name, and this is going to be assigned data.pop. Now, if you don't actually need to use that data later, for example, in this case, the -7 and the 10, you can just invoke pop without actually storing that anywhere. But if you need to use it later, then you can assign it to a variable. Now, our array is going to be empty, but we're going to have two variables available to us. Element, which is going to contain, 7. And then we're going to have this other variable, myvar, which is going to contain the value 5. So cool. That sounded so unenthusiastic. So the push method and the pop method are methods that describe the operations, but if you are working inside of a programming language, it's going to depend on whatever structure you are using. So if you are using a list inside of Python, these methods are going to be different. If you are in an array list inside of Java or C#, these again are going to be different. So the actual method names change, but the functionality stays the same. The way to describe this without using these names is basically the ability to add an element to the end of the collection and the ability to remove it and return it. So those are the two general behaviors of a stack. Now let's talk about an example with Python. To create a stack inside of Python, we first create a list variable. So that's going to look like so. We would say data, and we'll just assign it an empty list. Next up is the push capability, and with a list inside of Python, this method is known as append. So we would say data.append, and we would pass in some data such as 5. Now for the pop operation, Python actually kept that name, so we could say something like element, or literally any variable name, is data.pop. And that is a method call. And then what we can do is, if you wanted, you could say print and pass in element. So that is how you would do this inside of Python, but I'm sure figuring this out in any of the major programming languages is going to be fairly simple. Now again, because a stack is an abstract data type, all it really cares about is that there's a push operation and a pop operation. It doesn't necessarily mean there can't be other things. So oftentimes there will be some variation of a peek method, and what this will do is it'll actually look at that top element without actually popping it off of the stack. Because if you have a stack, you might want to check to see what this number is right here without actually removing it. So that's sometimes called peek. If we're just talking about the abstract data type, you would say peek, but different languages are going to have different names. So a very universal way to do a peek would basically be to grab the element at the last index. So in this case, what we would do is we would say data, and then we would use array notation or just square brackets. And inside of here, we're going to say the length of data minus 1. And that's how you would get that last element. You could assign that to a variable just like we did here, but it's not actually going to remove it from that list, so the list stays unchanged. So we talked about stacks and we understand them conceptually. When would you actually want to do something like this? Well, there's various ways that this is used already. So for example, a call stack, basically anytime you invoke a function in your code, that gets added to a stack. So when that function finishes and returns, we basically pop that function off of the stack and return to where we were. So there's a portion of memory known as a stack, and this is actually like an upside down stack. So we add elements this way, and grows this way. And this is just a portion of memory that is used for various things. So if you want to know more about that, just look up stack memory or something like that, and you'll be able to find information on that. Another common use of the stack data structure is to do something known as backtracking. So if you imagine you had like a maze, I'm gonna try not to draw a swastika here. And here you are. Well, if you want an algorithmic way to describe how you would solve this, you basically go down a path. Let's just say you always go to the rightmost path first. So you go right, and then you go, what would that be? Yeah, that'd be right again. And oh, you hit a wall, that doesn't work. So if you put those right operations in a stack, and you basically had a list like so, right, right, and then you hit a wall, then you just backtrack. You pop those off the stack and say, hey, we need to back up, and then we need to back up again and go this way. Now it looks like we might go left and keep going left until we go right. So now the stack's going to look like this. Left and then right. That's not working out either, so you pop those off the stack and backtrack to where you were. Anyways, this is getting like really ugly, but basically the backtracking is an approach to solve various paths in code. I actually did a video on solving mazes in Java inside of my 30 Days of Java series if you're interested. We build out a maze structure using ASCII characters, and we basically tell the computer to start at a position and end at a position, and it will basically follow these different paths. It's something you can build recursively or iteratively, and we're going to get into the differences there in the future.